Okay, should be going out on YouTube as well as Facebook now. I certainly hope so. If the Google lot will deign to allow me to go out on their network tonight, that would be awfully kind. Then again, they might just want to do a bit of a Nick Clegg. Who knows? All right. If you're watching an archive version coming up in 4 or 5 minutes, so you might want to fast forward a little bit. All right. Let's have a good one. Ciao. Oh, blimey. All right, okay. Just testing everything's working. Looks all right. Hold on a sec. Ollie, you got to sort out some copyright-free music. Facebook. Oh, for crying out loud. Oh, the calm before the storm. The calm before the storm. Right, come on, wake up, wake up, wake up!
Hello.
Hey, Bill, just a minute, sir, 1 minute, sir. How are you?
Okay, I'm very well, very well.
God bless you, mate, God bless you. come on. Not that we're running late. Hey folks, good evening, good people. Welcome to the Daily Betrayal. Holding democracy to account, fighting for self-determination and exposing plutocracy. I'm Olly Connelly. Thanks for turning up. And now, party political pitches. Tomorrow, we kick LibLabCon in the teeth. So what is our weapon of choice, BP or UKIP? BP's Bill Etheridge, MEP, is on right now through for the next hour. And UKIP Regional Chair Stephen Place is on in an hour's time for an hour. Taking your calls from 7:30 till 8 for Bill and from 8:30 till 9 for Stephen, respectively. And if you're not confused, I am. Please support the show, paypal.me/Brexit. Thank you. See you in the comments. Please share the thing, like the page, all that. Let folks know we're talking, we're thinking, we're watching. We are active! And calling for your resignation, woman! Yeah, that's about right. Can you believe it? I tell you, what a day. Again. Right. Oh, okay. That's enough of that. Bill, good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening. I'm very well. I'm in the beer garden of the Bull's Head pub in Gornal in lovely sunny Dudley, and life couldn't be better.
Oh, that's nice. That's a lot nicer than being in Brexit, whatever it is, Brussels land. Blimey, you must be flying around quite a lot. I guess you've been pretty busy campaigning.
Yep, I've been out today. Had a bit of an early start this morning. Got a few people sorted out with the leaflets and gone out and put a few through myself. And tomorrow we've got an early start, do the dawn raid and get leaflets out early in the morning. Yeah, it's been a busy old time. Been rushing around here and there. And of course, we've had a couple of visits into this area from Nigel, and I've been helping to organise them. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind, but all good fun. All
right, splendid. I take it if you're in a beer garden, you're not on camera tonight, no?
I'm not at the present. I could always be, as long as you don't mind seeing a very nice sunny Dudley behind you. And,
yeah. I want to have a look at your pint, mate. I'll tell you, I miss a good British pint. I really do. Yeah, let me have a look. Let's show us your pint. Let's have a big cheers. Cool, and there's no need to burp.
Well, it's actually gin and tonic. Sorry to disappoint, but I've obviously gone native while I was in Brussels. I've gone on to the gin and tonics. There you go. I've obviously sold out.
Aye. Okay, all right. Bill, I suppose we should start with the big story of the day. Theresa May hasn't actually resigned. What is your take on what's going on? Have you heard anything that maybe I haven't heard yet?
No, I've been monitoring the social media and the Twitter and communications and so on. It looks to me like it's imminent. I think what happened was that this morning the absolutely catastrophic poll for the Conservatives came out where they're on 7%, and I think that started things in action. I mean, it's unbelievable. I cannot think of a time ever they've been on such a low poll rating, and I think that set the wheels in action. So she may not go tonight, but she will be gone very, very soon. I don't think there's much doubt about that now.
It is an absolute joke, isn't it? The other big story today, I would have thought it should be the top story, but obviously Brexit is just dominating. British Steel down the pan. I imagine that you, being a good Yorkshireman, are rather upset. Is it not absolutely disgusting, and not least of all for our national security?
Well, for a start, I'm certainly not a Yorkshireman. I'm a West Midlander.
Oh,
But
sorry, sir. Sorry.
I was 20 years in the steel industry, so it's something that is very close to my heart. It's absolutely horrific. I mean, the background to this is that for some time now, the Chinese have been taking an active trade war against the West, in Europe and America, flooding the market with cheap imports of steel, which are clearly it's dumping. It's not competitive. It's dumping. It's a hostile act to try and knock our industries out. Mr. Trump has been able to take action in America to try and deal with the issue, but of course, according to the EU rules, we can't deliver state aid to our industries, so we can't fight back. And now you see the death of one of the most crucial strategic industries in our country. It's absolutely horrendous, and it is entirely due to the fact that we're tied into these ridiculous rules that just don't account for hostile acts like this.
That's right. I mean, the reason that we cannot salvage British steel, is it not, is because of EU law.
Absolutely. There are very strict rules on state aid. Now, I can understand that. I'm not a big fan of state aid myself, but there are occasions like this which perhaps were unforeseen when they wrote the rule book in the EU, where you are coming under attack. It's as simple as that. This is an attack on our industry, an attempt to knock out strategic industries, and you must be able to respond. I remember we had a couple of votes on this in Strasbourg, maybe 12 months ago when this was going on. And we were, at the time, demanding there must be some way that we can take action against this, because obviously I care more about British steel, but it's affecting all European steel mills. It's a very, very serious issue. It's not just jobs, which are obviously important. It's strategic. And this is an act of, trade war by the Chinese to try and knock out our strategic industries.
Is it not fair to say that British steel is a support industry to our defence? Well, that is how important it is.
I mean, there are many things now that British Steel doesn't do that it once did, and it's not the company it once was. I mean, we're way back in the midst of time when I used to work for British Steel, the stainless division. We had a hell of a lot more then, but it's still crucial. It's still vital. You must have your own homegrown steel production. Just think of the number of things that if we were starved, if they just pulled the plug on things, we'd be in the same situation as the Germans are with the Russians regarding oil and gas. It's really extremely serious, and I understand international treaties and rules, but frankly on this one, I know while we still are in the damned EU, we should be breaking the rules and protecting our own strategic interests.
Okay, all right. Well, look, we'll move on. I'm just going to give, as you know, folks that watch this show regularly, we give a bit of show you what's going on in the world of fake stream at the beginning of the show, and it's going to be very, very limited today because I want to get into the party political pitches for these guys and give them equal airtime on that as much as I possibly can. But just to give you an update on the latest, according to Guido at least, which it seems to me is a bit of a Tory mouthpiece on the quiet, really. But there you go. Theresa May resignation watch live updates and the latest state of play, according to them. 6:37, Nigel Farage was not stuck on a bus surrounded by milkshake-wielding would-be assailants, the Mirror now admits. So that's obviously relating to some other fake stream story earlier on. More importantly, just a few minutes ago or half an hour ago or so, apparently the government announced they will no longer be publishing the withdrawal agreement bill on Friday. I mean, but Bill, that is just absolutely incredible that she's trying to get this. It's like a Mark IV Cortina, except it won't get you from A to B.
I mean, the whole thing now has gone in past farce. It's quite clear that this new treaty will not pass. Even now, when she's given the Labour Party literally everything they want, they're not going to support it because they're looking at it from a strategic point of view themselves, thinking, hang on a minute, we can topple the government here. And as the opinion polls stand, they're in to win a majority if there was an election. So, this is a complete disaster, not just for the Conservative Party, but actually for the country, because one of the few things that terrifies me more than clowns and sharks is Jeremy Corbyn being Prime Minister. And it's a horrendous thought.
Yes, no, absolutely. Okay, all right. So let's get into it. So far as BP is concerned, why? You're an old UKIP man. What has BP got that UKIP doesn't?
Well, I've been astonished and impressed by the organisation. I think, I mean, I've been very much in the background on this. I'm not a candidate. I'm merely a supporter. But the way that the thing is working, I mean, the stuff on social media, the videos that they're putting out, the organisation of the whole thing, it's absolutely 5-star quality. And I think that it's a whole different ball game, and it's reflecting in the polls. And the fact that Nigel's been able to assemble such a wide range of views around him as well. It's not just us old lags who followed him for decades. It's a bunch of new people as well. I think it's quite something, and I think genuinely that this is not the be all and end all. This is the start, and I'm convinced, absolutely convinced, when that general election comes, the Brexit Party is going to be challenging seriously for large numbers of seats across the country. I'm totally convinced this is a new machine. You use the car analogy, or this is a Rolls Royce times a million. This is wonderful to see.
Now, okay, thank you. We've had Robin Horsley join us as well, who pops in on Wednesdays and gives us some analysis very, very kindly. Robin, do me a favor, please, and mute your microphone just for a second. I just want to rattle off some generic questions to Bill, first of all, before we get into a little bit more around and about the houses.
Sure.
Bill, so, okay, the one thing that people are concerned with Brexit Party is that it is a kind of a privatization of politics, if you like. Is it a party or is it a company?
Well, it's officially a limited company. But I think what the plan is, and Nigel mentioned this recently in the media, is that everyone who's registered as a supporter, when the full range of pledges that the party is going to adhere to is decided after this election, there will be a chance for them to vote. I think he's looking to do something quite similar to the 5-star movement in Italy, and I think it's a new innovation in politics, and that's what he's good at.
How is that going to work?
Traditional party as it was.
How's this going to work then? I mean, clearly we need to change what we've got, this kind of status quo, this duopolistic politics, this kind of Pepsi challenge, where you choose Pepsi or you choose Coke. Either way, it's going to rot your teeth. You're going to get cancer sort of thing if you drink enough of it. But how are we? I can see that we need to change that, and we're desperate to do it. But we don't want to replace one thing with something which actually is not necessarily serving our interests either. People do have concerns. How can we be sure that Nigel Farage and that this party, this Brexit Party, is going to be representative in a way that we just have not seen in decades?
Because I believe, from what Nigel's putting forward, we're going to have a situation where supporters of the party will directly be voting on the policies, which I think is fantastic. And it's reminiscent in some ways of John Rhys-Evans and some of the ideas that he was putting forward when he was in UKIP. And I think that this is an opportunity for a party to really represent the views of its supporters in a way that's never been done before. It's really very exciting, and I think it's going to be an innovation that will, to coin the old cliche, I think it will break the mould.
Well, it is exciting, yes, but and any sign of direct democracy is very exciting, Swiss-style kind of referendum type idea. But is that absolutely going to happen? How can you be sure, sir?
Well, I can only be as sure as anyone else that Nigel said it, and in my 10 years of knowing him, he's always been straight and square with me, and I believe what he says. I mean, each of us can only go on our beliefs. I believe what he says. I believe that it'll be put into place quite soon after this election. I mean, there's no point in having a fully rounded set of pledges for this election because it's only about one thing. But after this election, I think it will be put in place. I absolutely believe him. He's been very interested in this kind of thing for some time now. He had a lot of time with Beppe Grillo and the 5-star people, and I think they inspired him. And I think this is where we're heading, into this direct democracy within the party. And I think I believe him. And if I'm proved wrong, I'm proved wrong. But I would say, as far as I'm concerned, he's never lied to me. He's always been straight. And yep, I'm going to believe him. Have faith in him.
Okay, I appreciate that. So we're waiting. We're off the back of this election. I guess the next big gig will be Peterborough, the by-election there, where the locals have kicked out that Fiona, what's her name, the crook, who went through and voted in Yvette Cooper's bill or what have you, whilst wearing a Peckham bracelet, I think they call it in the neck. So she's gone or whatever, and maybe we're going to get a Brexit Party person in there. I understand there will be some policies. I think Nigel Farage said on Question Time a couple of weeks ago, when they deigned to give Brexit Party a presence. I understand that there are going to be some policies there. What sort of policies might there be rolled out for that? Just to give us a bit of an idea. I know that there should be more, obviously, on the run-up to the general election as well.
Yeah, well, I think Peterborough is perfectly symbolic. You know, they had a criminal voting to pass a crime against the British people when that bill got through by one vote, and that was her. And I think that Nigel's vocalised really what the policy platform starting to look like. There's going to be a reform to the electoral system with the House of Lords biting the dust. Well done on that one. Thank goodness for that. There's going to be certainly some looking at the role of the BBC. For my part, I'm sitting waiting with bated breath to hear the word privatisation, because I think it's well overdue on that one.
Yep.
But I think Nigel himself will start to unveil one or two bullet points. I'm not convinced on that election we're going to go in with anything more than a few bullet points. But frankly, if ever an election was about trust and about changing politics and getting rid of corrupt officials, that's the one. So I'll be going up to Peterborough and pounding the streets and thoroughly enjoying every second of it. And I'll be taking a team over there with me, and we'll be campaigning hard and then having a pint or two in the evening, which, as I think, is the correct way to do these things. Okay.
Well, I guess that the whole focus of this election for tomorrow is the WTO Brexit. Yeah, is that correct? Is there anything else, or is it basically WTO? That is the pledge.
I think it's all about that, and frankly, there are other factors rolling into it, such as distrust of the political class, and people saying we're sick of this. But the gist and the drive of the policy is, if the Brexit Party wins very, very big tomorrow, which I think it will, and everything indicates that it will, then I think that the pressure to put WTO back on the table is immense. And it also puts to bed this nonsense of saying people have changed their minds. If you've got a Brexit Party polling something like 40% in a national election, frankly, I think it gives the lie to all of this rubbish about people having changed their minds.
It's incredible. I'll tell you, the polls are absolutely amazing. I don't entirely trust them, but I mean, clearly, you're leagues ahead, and it is fascinating. Particularly, I heard from Stephen Place, who's coming on the show a little bit later this evening, for chairman of Bradford branch and Yorkshire's regional chair for UKIP, that the Tories are now polling on 7%. Unbelievable. Well,
it's wonderful.
Go on, Bill.
No, I'd say it's wonderful. The Tories have always relied on this base of people who will vote Tory no matter what, and it looks like it's broken. And this could be the beginning of the real shake-up in politics. It's very exciting. I mean, we are living through times here which will change the face of our country. I mean, I know this sounds hyperbole and over the top, but I truly believe it. When you see the Conservative Party on 7% and Labour Party clinging on the mid-teens, you know something's changing.
It is unprecedented. But there are one or two things that Nigel Farage says or doesn't say that concern people as well. And without harping on about some of the history of it, one of the things that he said recently that I think probably pricked up a few ears was that we should be allowing Syrian asylum seekers to come into the UK. Is that not a kind of a bit of a way to drum up, a kind of a vote? Is that really helping our migration policy?
It's a consistent line that he's taken for years. When he was leader of UKIP, he said the same thing. All of the immigration policy is about economic migration. We maintain, and I think he's right on this one. I mean, we've always said that legitimate asylum seekers who go through the correct process,
screen.
It's a legitimate legal asylum seeker who is in danger in their own home has the right to go to a safe country. I don't think necessarily we should take all of them or as many as we necessarily do, but we certainly should. We shouldn't be closing the doors on people who are fleeing persecution. That's something that we've never done as a country, and it defines us really as a country that is tolerant of these kind of things. And I don't think there's a problem with that. And they aren't the numbers we're talking about. The numbers coming in, the huge hundreds of thousands of people coming in, are not asylum seekers. They are economic migrants.
Yes, absolutely. Do you? What's your thoughts on the UN Migration Compact? Out of interest, and is there a party line on that?
Don't know the party line on that. I'll be very honest with you, because as I said, I am very much just a supporter in this rather than being in the inner cabal, so to speak. But as regards my own view on it, it's a backdoor way of, no matter what national leader might say on immigration, or what, whether we leave the EU or not, it's a way of them signing us up to maintain seriously high numbers, and it's totally dishonest, a sleight of hand and a backdoor way of making sure that we continue to be flooded by immigrants.
Right. Okay. I want to bring Robin Horsley in now as well to basically pit the questions that I'm not thinking of before we open up to some comments and calls in 10 minutes or so. Robin, good evening, sir. Thank you very much indeed. It's been very, very chaotic putting this show together tonight for various reasons, and I appreciate your patience. But Robin, what would you like to ask, sir?
Not at all. Evening, Ollie, and evening, Bill. Pleasure to
Hello.
To meet you, as it were.
Robin is from the Great Brexit Debate, Bill, and also has some very interesting contacts in the Bruges group, and gives us a bit of the information that's going on there, and basically sympathise. We sympathise with a lot of the folks that he talks to at the Bruges group, who just wonder what on earth they have this Prime Minister for.
Bruges group are very sound. I started off many years ago. One of the first things I did in politics was join the Bruges group. So yeah, I'm very pleased to speak to you.
All right,
yeah,
Robin, please.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, no, I do a lot of the Bruges group social media, and I film their events and turn that filming into clips that we push out on social media, which supports the whole Eurosceptic cause. So yeah, I just I was listening to what you were saying, Bill. It's very interesting. I too had picked up this fact that the Brexit Party are looking at or looking for inspiration to the 5-star network and how they've gone about things. And I know that they effectively vote, the membership of the 5-star vote on their policies, don't they?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Now,
5-star movement, Italy 5-star movement. You mean,
yeah,
Robin? Yeah, carry on, please.
5-star movement. Sorry, yeah. What kind of an interesting perspective on that, really? That do you think it would be wise for the Brexit Party to limit the input into its policy stream to just people who are members of the party, or do you think it's going to need that mechanism in order to encourage people to actually join and participate, and therefore fund the party?
As I understand it, it's going to be because registered supporters will get a vote in it, and it won't be a case of someone comes out with some crazy scheme of everyone having free jelly on a Wednesday and we all vote it through. It will be a case of the policy proposals will be put forward by the leadership with various options attached to it, and you take your choice on those options. That's how I understand it will work. I mean, I'm not being involved with the development, but that's my understanding of it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope personally, I hope it goes further than that. I hope it provides an opportunity for people who are sort of tacit supporters, not necessarily members, to input into that, because I think politics needs to return to being a battle of ideas, and the best ideas need to be gathered from wherever they exist, and nobody has a monopoly on.
I agree. But I think it's important though that you have ideas and voting from people who are at least of a like mind. We don't want the situation where all of a sudden 200,000 Momentum supporters suddenly start putting forward insane ideas. I think there has to be want the situation some kind of regimentation of it.
Yeah, fair point. Yeah. What's your feeling on where we're at with the Conservative Party and Theresa May? It looked this afternoon as though she might resign this evening, but now the media seems to be pulling back from that and reporting that it seems to be unlikely that that's going to happen this evening, that she's going to hang around until another meeting with the 1922 committee on Friday.
Let's also take that question one step further, Bill. How do we ensure that we never again have a traitor sitting in number 10 Downing Street?
Well, I'm happy to develop into that. First of all, I think that I think she's gone. I think whether it be tonight, tomorrow, the next day, I just think the situation now has gone so far that despite her, some people may say admirable tenacity, others might say obsessive detachment from reality. Whatever it might be, I don't think that the Conservative Party will allow it to continue because, frankly, at this point in time, they are on the verge of implosion. And I know a European election isn't the same as Westminster, but when you've hit this kind of low, it's damned hard to come back. Damned hard. So I think she'll be gone within a few days, and it might well be within hours. But it's been hard to call because she should have gone some time ago. As regards stopping this situation ever happening again, I think, and maybe I'm a little extreme on this, but I think the only way to do it is to continue this surge, this support of the Brexit Party of breaking open the system and actually to, in a way, damage the Conservative Party so badly that it understands where it's gone wrong. I think it's gone so far wrong over so many years that actually now it needs a sort of an anarchist solution to it, where you knock it down and start again. Because frankly, I was a member of the Conservative Party about 11 years ago, and even then they were making sure that every candidate who was selected was applying to the line that was being held by the leadership, and if you had any views at all that were anti-Europe, anti-EU, etc., you weren't being allowed to stand for things, and that was way back then. And they have their sort of cogs within the machine who make sure everyone follows this line, and only certain people qualify to be A-list candidates and get the prime seats, and they're picking from the old boys and old girls network, and it needs to be completely broken and started again. I'm afraid it is no longer fit for purpose, and I think this is showing it really perfectly.
Can I just interject with a observation? I met up with Matthew Elliott a few weeks ago, Bill,
yeah.
And so Matthew Elliott was the guy who set up the Vote Leave campaign back during the EU referendum in 2016. Mm-hmm. He's the most sort of senior man there, and I met up with him at an event a few weeks back, and I said to him, "Look, wouldn't it be better if you're a leaver, Matthew? Wouldn't it be better if once Theresa May is gone, that regardless of what your political disposition is, if you're a Conservative MP, wouldn't it be better to ensure that we only have Remainer candidates going forward to be voted on, because that will ensure, therefore, that the Conservative Party does become a Remain party, and we won't therefore split the Brexit vote, and the Brexit Party will have a clear run at it when it comes to a general election."
Yeah.
And he was completely, as you can imagine, completely stumped by that. But then afterwards said to me, he said, "Oh no, I don't think that would be a good idea." So I said, "Well, there you go then. So what you mean is you're putting party before country, aren't you? Because on one hand, you're a Conservative Party man, and on the other hand, you're a Brexit man. But when push comes to shove, and when I ask the question, you won't support a strategy that damages the Conservative Party for Brexit."
That's right. It's disgusting, isn't it? This is a problem.
It was an elephant trap that I set for him, but it was quite.
Well, the reality is most of the people who stand a chance of winning the leadership, I wouldn't class them as real Brexiteers anyway, and I would include Boris Johnson in that.
Yes.
I don't think that there's a handful of very honourable, sound Conservative MPs, and I mean a handful, and the rest of them, frankly, cannot be true Brexiteers because they've backed and failed to remove a treacherous government which has done everything it can to undo Brexit. So, maybe I'm being a little bit hard on them, but frankly, you look at the field, and I can't really pick one out who I would really trust as saying that this is a real Brexit person. I think most of them will hitch their wagon to whichever is the favourite cause of the day.
Bojo proved that he was a fake when he voted for her withdrawal agreement Mark III. He is a fake. And Moggy is a foggy Moggy as well, as he not. I mean, we cannot trust any of them. The fact is, as a party, they are corrupted. They're corrupted. They put a remor on impact. You hear about this a lot if you watch this show. But I mean, that is the truth. Now we need a sea change Is Brexit Party going to deliver that? I guess the thing is, the bottom line is people are concerned, is it going to revert? And this is, I think, what Robin's saying here. Is it going to revert to the same old party politics?
I don't believe so. I honestly believe that because, Nigel had a lot of years running UKIP. He had some great difficulties towards the end of it, but he learnt a lot during that time. He spent some time out from the front line. He studied and looked at what was happening in different places. And he's come back fresh, and he's come back with this new approach, new idea, which, it's getting some stick and criticism, but then new ideas always do. And frankly, where we are at the moment with politics, I'm of the opinion, well, let's have some faith in the different thing. And, if it proves not to work out, then let's heap the criticism on. But frankly, this guy has come up with something different. And we know that he's a real Brexiteer, and he's got a different way of going about politics now that he's pushing forward. Let's give him a chance. Why not? The other options are all completely disastrous. So why not give him the chance to prove himself right?
Bill, last question from me before we open up to callers as well, and anything else that Robin wants to ask and take some comments. And if you want to call in, this is the time to do it, folks. Please do. Accepting calls now. You mentioned how the party is modelled on 5-star. Nigel has been very reticent about teaming up with like minds in the EU Parliament. Do we not now need any Brexit party presence or UKIP presence in that chamber, in Brussels or Strasbourg, to team up with these like minds? Not just, Struth, God, don't get me wrong, I'm a patriot first and a Brexiteer first, but also for me, and I think for a lot of people, this is about getting rid of this fascism in Europe, which we've obviously seen and our forefathers have fallen over in the past. And seeing that doesn't happen again, that we do control our own industries and what have you, can defend ourselves, do have our own, for example, steel industry and all the rest of it to help with that. Nigel has been reticent to team up with these people, but do we not need to now?
Well, we have been working with people from other countries. I mean, for the last 5 years, I've been a member of the EFDD group, the Europe of Freedom and Direct Democracy, and we've got people from Central Europe, Eastern Europe, Italians, French, Germans. We've got a lot of allies out there.
Would he work with Le Pen? Would he work with Le Pen? Because she is likely to do very well over the weekend, no?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure she will. I don't know the answer to that one. I know that they know each other, and they've had many conversations. But, whilst... Yes, I accept that Marine Le Pen has a nationalist view, which is anti-EU, and I applaud her for that. There is more to politics than just that. And there's a whole range of views she's got, particularly economically and fiscally, which, frankly, are the total polar opposite to the kind of things that UKIP, Nigel, and people like myself always put forward. They are diametrically opposite to us in so many ways. So, look, Nigel forms alliances with people, and even the ones who aren't in alliances with us, we often will vote the same way. We'll often push the same things. I don't think we're particularly standoffish. Certainly over the 5 years I've been out there, we've been doing our damnedest to work with like-minded people as much as possible, whether it be officially or unofficially, to try and put a spoke in the works. So I wouldn't rule out cooperation with whomsoever seems to be the right person at the time. He's not going to be stuck in the mud about that, I don't think, for a second.
What would you say about that, Robin?
Sorry, in what respect?
Well, I mean, I know that you understand French politics very, very well, the history of it. I know that you have family connections with some incredible. Yep. It's another story. But is it not now important for Eurosceptics, the continent across, to work together? And can you what's your take on what Bill said about Nigel's take on, for example, Le Pen?
Well. Yeah, I think French politics. I mean, I don't know. To be perfectly frank, Ollie, I don't know a lot about French politics. To be perfectly honest, I mean, I know very little about anything other than UK politics around the world. But my impression from speaking to friends in France, I was there the week before last. What was really interesting, being in France. I'm not sure if this is directly on the point, but I think it's quite related. Mm-hmm. Couple of years ago in France with friends, the attitude was, good on you in the UK, you're voting to leave, and you're going to get free, and we're stuck. We're stuck in this compact that we've had with Germany for going back decades, and we're never going to get out. But you guys can get out. The attitude that we got now was, oh, what? You're leaving us? You're leaving us? You're traitors. You're betraying us. You're leaving us behind, sort of thing. It was quite interesting. And so I think Macron has had quite a big impact, because my sense, until Macron had his sort of huge surge of support, was that speaking to people who, people that are sort of family members that have connections with the French establishment, they said really that the French had sort of got to come to a conclusion that really they'd thought of France and Germany as being partners in the European project, but had realised after much soul searching that in fact France were very much the junior partner, and always really had been, and always were really going to be. So I think, do the Eurosceptics need to work together? Look, Bill can answer that question far better than I can. In terms of sentiment in France, I think things have changed. I don't think Le Pen's got as widespread support as she needs, and Macron.
Okay.
Macron is riding the storm quite well, frankly. I mean, even public opinion. I mean, we see a lot about the Gilets jaunes, but unfortunately, the Gilets jaunes seem to be losing the public support, because they're causing massive disruption. A bit like we saw with the environmental campaigns in London over the last few weeks. Yes, they raise awareness, but actually, if they're disrupting people a lot, they don't gain public support.
Well, we're gonna find out, because a lot of people are saying that this is a referendum on Macron, this EU election. So we're gonna find. I'm going to read a few comments, and people have got a few.
Can I just ask Bill a question?
Please, yeah.
Bill, asking you this question as an MEP.
Yep.
People like you and I know from assiduous research over many years that the economic arguments for being a member of the EU are bogus.
Yeah.
That the true cost of being a member of the EU is not £350 million a week, as Vote Leave put on the side of a red bus. They are vastly, vastly higher for that, in terms of the opportunity cost of not being able to do our own international trade deals with any of the major economies of the world, because the EU have failed to do any free trade deals with the USA, China, or India.
Quickly, Robin, we've only got 20 minutes with Bill. Go on.
UK consumers are forced to buy food, drink, and clothing and engineered products at inflated prices. All those things. Yeah, we both know those arguments in depth. What, therefore, is the political motivation for people like Theresa May and people who have subscribed to the European dream? What's motivation is left? Because we know the economic argument is nonsense.
Well, I believe the only real argument, pro-EU argument, is a belief that the nation state is a thing of the past, and that we are all incapable as individual countries of being able to defend ourselves or deal with the problems that arise in the 21st century, which are cross-border, like international terrorism and climate change. I believe that's the only thing that drives them. It's certainly not economics. So you've very nicely laid out there many of the issues. I mean, it's nothing to do with trade. Nothing to do with trade. It's everything to do with political grand schemes and beliefs. And frankly, all of these things that they talk about could be achieved by treaties between independent countries saying, well, we'll work together on these things should we decide we want to. But it's a sort of, this is where these Remainers get their air of superiority from, because they believe they've got a higher calling. This is leaving behind such things as democracy and nation states and going on to a greater thing where we're run by technocrats and experts, and we go into a different era. And this is all that it's about. And they can lie as much as they want. I know the truth, because week in, week out, all I ever heard while I was in Brussels and Strasbourg was the same argument, that it was all about a political project to make a federal Europe. It's not about anything else. It's not about anything else.
It's basically, is it not a big ego chip? I mean, I think, are you not being a little bit polite here, Bill? I mean, people talk about globalization. I would equate that to fascism. And for example, we saw it with TTIP, did we not? Where they're desperate. And I'm not saying that the British government is any different. It's just it's a lot easier to reform something that's closer to home, is it not? You've got to get rid of the outer layer of the onion before you can reform the inner layers of the onion. Did TTIP not show us that the EU is basically a bunch of cheap labour fascists?
Yeah, well, I'm not known for being polite, but I was trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, look, the EU, cheap labour, because who controls the EU? I hear all these people saying, oh, the EU is controlled by socialism and all the rest of it. It isn't. It's controlled by global corporations. That's who controls the EU. There are more lobbyists in Brussels than there are in Washington. And all these regulations they put through are designed to make the labour move easier between countries, so it's all the same, to make the customers all the same in every country, and to make it harder for small businesses to compete, because you've got so many layers of regulation, so many layers of employment law, that you have to take on 10 times as many people to do the personnel department as you've got making the widgets. And that's, frankly, what it's about. It's run by global corporations. Simple as that.
It's closed shoppery at a supranational level, isn't it? Basically, Bill.
I want to take some comments, because folks have bothered to tune in, and God bless them. And I want to hear what they got to say. And I know there's a few questions in here as well. Charles, and we've got 20 minutes. If you want to call in, please do. Charles Spencer, will May resign on Friday? PM is ordered to a showdown with Tory backbench leader after EU election polls close tomorrow. But she refuses to meet mutinous cabinet, pushing her to the number 10 exit. Yes, so I understand, Charles. Charles Spencer also says Macron says Britain must leave the EU on Halloween, as the French president pledges to block any more delays to Brexit. And hopefully the ghoul in chief will be gone way before Halloween. Jesus Jones, Rome rules still. The signs are everywhere. Eric Rolfson says, hi, Ollie, couldn't get you on Facebook, so just to show my support to your great show and the cause. God bless you, Eric. William Davies, that's what we deserve. The Swiss direct democracy. It's very, very good to hear that, Bill. Eric Rolfson, by the way, Charles, I would love the UK to oblige Macron, as leave means leave and not leave means but. Naomi M says, we're walking down the dangerous road of direct democracy. Is it dangerous? The problem is the foreign power has not been thrown out of the UK yet. Charles Spencer, Etheridge, you are going to deal with the Muslim. Are you going to deal with the Muslim problem in this country, or do as Nigel does, ignore it? That's a direct question to you, Bill.
Okay, well, Mr. Spencer, I don't believe for one second that Nigel has actually ignored it. Just because he doesn't foam at the mouth constantly going on about the same issue does not mean he's ignored it. In fact, he made some of the most powerful speeches about this issue, talking about the freedom of movement across Europe as being a charter for terrorists. He's spoken about this time and time again. I myself went on a march in Telford where we went to the police station with several hundred people talking about grooming. You don't have to wear these things as a badge on your shirt to say that you're doing it. Frankly, this is part of many issues that we're dealing with, and there is a problem with some of the communities who've entered this country. There is certainly a problem with extreme Islam. There's certainly a problem of terrorism across Europe and the world related to Islam. There are all these problems. No one's denying it, but this nonsense of talking solely about it and making it out to be the only issue of the day is crazy. It's one of the issues, and it is something that is looked at. And nobody is more tough on the issue in a sensible and controlled manner than Nigel. I've heard speech after speech that have made the hair stand on end of the people in the European Parliament of what he said. And he believes that we have to deal with these issues, and he won't shy from them. He doesn't shy from anything.
We've got a couple of folks that have called in. Thank you very much indeed. Who's called in, please? You're on Daily Brexit.
Colin Duff. Just a quick one for you. Ledsom's resigned.
She's resigned? Yeah! Woohoo! Are you sure?
Andrea Leadsom. I've just read the letter, yeah.
Hold on. Oh, Andrea Leadsom has resigned, not Theresa May.
Yeah, which is a prelude to her bid for the leadership, isn't it?
Yeah. Probably is. Okay. Andrea Leadsom. Well, yeah. Okay. That's good.
Another plastic Brexiteer.
She can't really last. Okay, thank you very much.
I'm fascinated to listen, so I'll just carry on listening. But I just want to give you that news.
That's lovely. That's lovely. I'll tell you what, though, you got me really excited. I thought you meant Theresa May, but that will doubtless follow on in the wake.
That's going to happen within the next 24 hours, isn't it? The cabinet's falling apart, so she can't sustain this.
Well, I mean, we thought that before. I mean, how many ministers has she lost now? Sorry, Bill, go on.
No, but Ledson has been one of her most staunch supporters, isn't she?
Well,
she's actually moved because she's the leader of the House. She's moved the debate around to suit May's agenda many times.
That's right.
She's been ultra loyal. But if she goes, that May must realise that her only best friend in there, apart from the idiot, the chief whip, has now gone, and she's got to start buggering off, really.
All right.
Anyway,
Colin,
guys, keep up the work. I'll speak to you soon.
God bless you. And we've had somebody else call in as well. Who are you?
Comment on that?
No, we'll talk about it later because we've only got Bill for another 15 minutes. Who else has called, please? No? Okay. Robin, please, go on.
Well, I was just going to say, I think what I noticed in Andrea Leadsom's letter was that she said, look, I can't fulfil my duty as leader of the House tomorrow to announce the bill with new elements that I fundamentally oppose. That was her position. Now, clearly what she's done is it's a disruptive manoeuvre. I think what we're seeing is, bear in mind, she is part of the pizza party. You know, there are people such as Andrea Leadsom, Penny Mordaunt, Michael Gove, Brexiteers in Cabinet who've been hanging on for grim death to stay in Cabinet and taking all the flack they've taken for sort of betraying us all. Their justification for doing so has been to try and ensure the Prime Minister doesn't get this thing over the line.
All right.
I think that's what's going. I think that's what's going on, is that we're now going to see a series of efforts made, of which Andrea Leadsom is the first of those, in order to force her out of office.
Well, good news.
It's the end game.
We'll talk more about that off the back of these two chats, these two-party political pitches today. Naomi M is a little bit concerned, Bill, about direct democracy. She says it equates to mob rule in the UK. What works in Switzerland may not work in the UK. What would you say to that?
I think that I can understand concerns about it because, you know, we're all concerned about something that's different and we haven't tried before. But I have looked into this a little bit, and I said before, I'll give a little bit of credit to John Rhys-Evans when he did his leadership bid in UKIP, because I spent a bit of time learning what he was talking about. And I'm not saying this is exactly the same thing, by the way, but, you know, there's ways that this can be done that aren't necessarily mob rule, because you're not necessarily letting anything go out there to be discussed. There are selected ideas and policies that you then let the membership have a say on, and the people have a say on. And I think that's really a good way forward. But I understand the concern. Right? I think it's time to do something different, because absolutely everything in our political system is broken. There's no question about it. So let's give it something different to try.
Could we see some sort of a mix with PR in there as well? Because is that not what we actually need? Some kind of a formula with proportional representation and direct democracy.
Oh, look, I'm all in favour of proportional representation. I think it's long overdue in our country, for sure. I mean, you know, I can only speak for myself on this. I don't know Nigel's plan on that one, but certainly, as far as I'm concerned, I'd like to see a large element of direct democracy. I'd like to see proportional representation, and I'd like to see the absolute getting rid of the House of Lords, which is so archaic. It's a joke.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's time for massive change.
Yeah, Robin, please.
Can I? Yeah, hang on a second. This is getting confused. Proportional representation breaks the constituency link. It means that you vote for a party, not a person. It means, therefore, that you don't have a connection with your political representative. Direct democracy means that the people decide. It doesn't mean that the membership of a party decide. What you're suggesting, that Nigel Farage is suggesting, is not direct democracy. What Nigel Farage is suggesting, according to you, is that there is some kind of democratic methodology within a political party that decides party policy. Direct democracy in Switzerland and Liechtenstein are the two European countries that practice it. is about the people deciding. The people have a right of intervention. So anybody can gather
You can hear this guy speaking.
referendum in order to initiate.
This is like
1 second, please, caller. 1 second.
Somebody's
Robin,
jumping
carry
in
on.
it, but
2
let me
seconds in front of this.
Look, I'm
Let me
sorry.
just-
Caller, could you please mute your mic just for a second, just out of courtesy, and I'll pull you in just a second. I promise you. Please carry on, Robin.
direct democracy involves an ability. Well, for example, in Switzerland, there are 3 different instruments of direct democracy, and I'll just sort of cover it very, very briefly. But basically, if the government of Switzerland puts forward any particular law or an amendment to an existing law, it means that the electorate can, if enough people care to do so, can force a referendum so that it can be knocked back by the people. It also means that new laws can be initiated by referendum. 7 people have to get together, and they will initiate the process of potentially starting a referendum. If they get 100,000 people signed up in 18 months, that will force a referendum, and they can introduce a new law. So that's really what direct democracy is about. If we look at the impact of direct democracy, what it's really about, it's about running the country in the best way possible, using all the resources of the people in order to achieve the best outcomes. And if you look at that in purely GDP terms, in terms of the total value of goods and services produced in the economies of those countries, compare the UK at roughly $45,000 of GDP per person per year, with 65,000 in Switzerland, or where direct democracy is very deeply embedded, Liechtenstein, $139,000 per person of GDP. So it's a very, very successful system economically. And bear in mind, neither Switzerland or Liechtenstein have any oil or gas natural resources. All of the people who are above Switzerland in the economic league tables of prosperity have natural oil and gas resources.
Okay, all right. We've got somebody who's called in. Thank you very much indeed for that, Robin. That is fascinating, and clearly that's something we are going to doubtless be debating that considerably off the back of these elections as things move on, and talking about how we can do things like hold the Brexit Party to account if they do smash it at the polls as predicted, with regards to WTO, Brexit pledge, and so on and so forth. Caller, please identify yourself. You're on Daily Brexit. Hello.
Yeah.
Yes. What would you like to
hello.
say? What would you like to ask Bill, please?
Yeah, my name's Pete.
Hey, Pete. Good evening.
Yeah, my name's Pete, and I'm from Valencia.
Right. Good. What would you like to ask?
Yeah, you're talking about direct democracy.
Well-
I do believe that it can be done over the mobile phone.
Have you got a question for Bill?
Yes. Can direct democracy be done over the mobile phone by people using the mobile phone that have a PIN number?
Bill?
Well,
So they can vote. So they can vote on an issue using a PIN number on the mobile phone, and they can only use that PIN number on that single issue.
well, I think it can be, but I'm not sure that that's what Nigel's suggesting. So I don't want to give that impression. But speaking for myself, I think that is a system that can work, and the technology is there to do it. So yes, it can be done that way. Absolutely.
There are 2.
Yeah, absolutely, because people draw money from banks using a PIN number.
Yeah,
And they can only use that PIN number on that issue of drawing cash.
There are
Yeah,
2.
I think it's spot on. That could well be one way of doing it. Absolutely.
There are 2 hurdles to be overcome, I think, with that. If I may interject, Ollie.
Yeah, go on. Well, I don't really want to have that debate now because we've only got 6 minutes left. But Pete, have you got any other questions for Bill? What are your thoughts about Brexit Party?
I've got one more problem that I've come up that I've seen and I've spotted today, is that in Ireland, in the polling stations, the Irish government have loaded the polling station with pencils.
Not pens. Not black pens. What's your point,
No
Pete?
pencils.
What's
We
your
had
point?
this discussion in the UK, and I think people
Yeah.
need to take their own pens.
Yes, they do. Absolutely. Pete, are you...
I mean, this sounds to me real dodgy, man.
Well, it is. You're quite right. Absolutely. They can be scrubbed out and a different cross put in, can't they? Pete, what are you...
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts, BP or UKIP?
Me on UKIP.
What are your thoughts, BP versus UKIP?
Yeah, at the minute, I ain't got no thoughts. All I'm concentrating on at the minute is tomorrow that Farage wins 40 seats.
That's what you're hoping for. That's what you're hoping for, is it?
Yeah, I've opened a bottle of wine.
Okay, all right. Pete, thank you very much indeed for your call. I want to take a few...
Thanks, Ollie.
Not at all. God bless you, mate. And if you're in Valencia, so am I. We should meet up for a pint sometime. Give us a shout on Facebook.
Yeah,
And thank you.
We'll do.
All right. Ciao. All right. Okay. Another. We're called expats. I remain patriotic. Yeah. I'm just a migrant who happens to be. And anyway. All right. John Middleton says, yeah, but digits is a novelty. Botter need money for street just in case electric went on one day. I don't know. I don't know. Okay. Right. Bill, what is your prediction? What's going to happen to Blimey? Hold on.
My prediction.
Who's?
I
can hear somebody doing. Is that? Are you in the kitchen now? Are you in the kitchen?
My prediction for tomorrow.
Yeah, go on.
Is that the Brexit Party is going to get something around 38, between 38 and 41% nationally. I had a call from the local press in the West Midlands a couple of days ago, saying that a pro-EU group had done their own polling in the West Midlands, and that the Brexit Party, according to their own polling, was showing at 40%. Now, if that's, and we all know that polling can be weighted and can be asked in certain ways. Now, if that's a group that's trying to show, the negative and trying to be critical of the Brexit Party, I would say that, something 40 plus might well be achievable. And I think that would be a hell of a victory, resounding and incredible after a short period of time as a party. Wonderful.
Ollie, can I go with 42%? And Bill, I'll have a gentleman's bet of £1 with you on that.
Well, look, I'll be glad to pay the pound up if it's 42%, because I'll be spending more than that on champagne and getting rather drunk.
That's the deal then, mate. A pound's on it. You're going 41 and something, and I'm going 42.
Sounds a plan. I'm up for that, for sure.
All right. Hey, listen, Bill Etheridge, thank you very much indeed. A good man. And I really appreciate you supporting this little grassroots show as well. Thank you for coming on, sir.
Absolute pleasure, Ollie. Always a pleasure, mate. All the best to you.
Have a pint for me.
Cheers.
Crying out
and
loud.
yourself.
God bless you, mate.
Okay.
Thank you.
All the best. Bye-bye.
Cheers, Bill. Oh, right. Oh, Robin? Hold on. Have I just cut off Robin? Have I just cut off? Oh, I've just cut off Robin. Hold on a sec. Let me call Robin back. Right, Robin.
Yes.
We can talk behind his back now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We've got a couple of minutes time. Just a bit of a breather here, and then we've got Stephen Place coming in, who is the chairman of the Bradford branch of UKIP and also the Yorkshire regional chair. And so, hey, Stephen, give us a shout when you want, sir, and we'll give you a grilling too. Robin, what are your thoughts? Go on.
Well, let's just get back to this direct democracy point. I noticed in the comments,
it's very key.
Somebody came up with one of the answers. I've lost their name now, but I'm sure they'll know who they are. There are really two issues with implementing direct democracy to the level that the caller suggested earlier, i.e. providing voting on a mobile phone, right? Mm-hmm. Now, in theory, this is great, isn't it? The reality is that we have an electoral system which was based on...
If it can't be hacked...
Sorry?
If it can't be hacked, then...
Oh, hang on. Yeah. Hang on. Let's just get back to the basics on this. We've got a couple of minutes on it. We have an electoral system which is based on a time when votes were collected on horseback. It goes back literally hundreds of years. If you can imagine a few hundred years ago of the same era, you might have had a military fighting ship, a ship of the line, a tall-masted ship of the line, and the admiral with his fleet would have set sail, and he would have been given his orders, and then it was up to him to make the decisions that he would make for the next year, 2 years, 3 years. Because in practical terms, he couldn't communicate with London. He couldn't communicate with the Admiralty. So he had to make his own decisions. And in the same way, we've elected people to Parliament to make decisions, and we've given them a long lease of responsibility for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
In terms of technology, the availability of technology, the caller's right. Why on earth are we putting people in a position, this exalted position of responsibility, when frankly we're much more able these days with communication the way it is to be able to give them direct input in terms of our decisions on things.
Yes.
There are two things to be overcome: inclusivity and security. So inclusivity in terms of, well, not everybody's got a smartphone. So how do we deal with that? We can't just disenfranchise the part of the population that doesn't have access to the technology.
Yes.
And number two is security, as I think you were just touching on, and somebody commented earlier and said blockchain, and they're absolutely right. With blockchain, you can provide a secure system so that you can ensure that people who you think are voting are actually voting, and that the whole thing is not being corrupted. There've been various movies produced over the years about automated voting systems, and I can only assume they've been funded to try and scare people off this route, because of course it takes power away from representatives and puts it in the hands of the people.
Yeah,
absolutely. Which is
absolutely.
where it belongs.
That's Joe Bloggs, who's I think was pitching for blockchain. I know that he's an advocate for it. A few folks are around here, and
well, I am too. Yeah, but anyway, that's my little pitch on it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'll tell you, off the back of this, it'll be nice to get this election out of the way, and get into some of these issues and start talking about ways that we can improve things again, as opposed to just going around in circles and circles and circles with Groundhog Day. I'm so looking forward to this woman going, we can move on a bit, and I don't know. Anyway, look, we've got Stephen Place, who has called in now. Stephen, can you hear us, sir?
Hi, yes, I can. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Your audio's a wee bit loud there, but better loud than quiet. We'll see how that goes. Stephen Place is the chairman of the Bradford branch of UKIP, and indeed also the regional chair of Yorkshire. And so that's quite a big constituency, Stephen. What, 6 million people or so?
6 million people, and got 54 constituencies.
Right. Okay. Blimey. So you're quite important. We'll be good. Thank you very much indeed for calling in. I don't know if you heard Bill Etheridge having a chat and explaining what BP want to do. And
yes.
Okay. What would you take him to task on in that case? You've got second dibs here. You might as well take advantage of it. That's just the way it is. Go on. What's your pitch?
Well, I think the first thing to say is about the direct democracy. When John Rhys Evans was running for the leadership of UKIP 2017, nothing was really established in terms of how it would work. And when we questioned him on the cost and the staffing, if you imagine there's 100,000 or so they say, members of the Brexit Party, and I don't doubt that, there's 30,000 members or whatever of UKIP. If you can imagine nobody sat at home tonight deciding to lump in on policy about British Steel, that's got to be recorded somewhere onto a server or via computers, etc. And that was the way he was doing it. So I'm not clear exactly how this direct democracy is going to work in actual real time and the management of it, and how somebody like myself, for instance, sat in Bradford, who puts an idea forward via the internet, to them. How do I know that A, it's going to be read, and B, it's going to be looked upon and valued and weighed with some balances and some checks, and then converted into hopefully maybe some policy? And it was all really muddled, and it was very grey. And I spoke to a friend of mine who was in IT big time, sets up companies with their IT systems, explained it all to him. And at that time, we were talking about sort of maybe 25 to 35,000 people being involved. And he said that the server would be enormous, and you would need minimum of 6 staff, 24 hours a day to monitor it. And somebody may know better than me than that, of course, but that was what the problem was at that time. So, but when the other chap was talking about the Swiss, I think it was, and Swedish models, then obviously they're much more in advance of us. So they may have got it right. I don't know. It's something we need to explore, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. I mean, clearly it's early days for Brexit Party. I guess that is a double-edged sword for them. And it's in a way, I guess it's difficult for UKIP to attack them at the moment, because they are. What do you attribute? I guess the obvious thing is Nigel Farage as a character or something like that.
Yeah.
What do you attribute their success, first of all? And how much of a threat are they to UKIP? I mean, we see what we see in the polls, but what's your take on it being in the fold, in the UKIP fold?
Well, clearly, I would say 95% of the success of the Brexit Party for me is down to Nigel Farage. I've seen him talk, and sometimes when he's talking in front of large audiences, he could be talking about candy floss and he'd still have you, because he's very enigmatic. He's a fantastic orator. I don't think we've ever had anybody in recent times as good as him by any shape or form. He's a master at it. And I think that's what, and it's a big euphoria. And he's got people on his side, and congratulations to him for doing it. In terms of long term, after tomorrow, which I do think they're going to do very, very well tomorrow, because I think the Tory party had just absolutely imploded. There must be a lot of Tory MPs sat at home tonight having dinner, thinking, what on earth has gone on here? Where are we? How have we got to this point? Yeah. And I think they'll be very worried about it, and quite rightly so. And consequently, of course, it looks like some of them have grown a backbone and demanded that she goes. But this woman is unbelievable. But going back to the Brexit Party, the rallies and the thousands of people that have gone there, he's caught the mood of the nation at the right time. Talk about being in the right place at the right time. And that's what he's done. But longevity-wise, we'll wait and see what his policy mandate is. He said the other day, apparently, that for policies, he said, just look at the UKIP 2015 manifesto. Well, that's a bit disingenuous, really. But UKIP have got to go back to the drawing board and do their homework and come back out fighting with a different set of radical policies that talk to people where I am in Bradford and gets them on our side again. We need to adopt the stance that we are for the working people, and we're for the working man, and we care about them.
The thing is that I mean, okay, I'm just going to use myself as an example here. I actually joined UKIP a couple of weeks before Nigel Farage launched this new Brexit party for pragmatic reasons. I don't give a damn about, quite frankly, any political party. I am a proud and committed floating voter. Keep them guessing. That's what I say. But that said, I mean, I do want to think the best of people, and I've got a lot of time for Gerard Batten and the sort of things that he's said. A little bit of concern as well about maybe the party has split, not because of things that it's done, so much as because of perception and the way the press has been able to maraud against it and so on and so forth. But nonetheless, I joined it for pragmatic reasons, because I thought it was the one party that stood a chance of getting a few seats in Parliament, along with, for example, the DUP, for in a future coalition government, to have some sort of a say to help to secure what so many of us actually want, and we don't care about anything else. Everything else is second place, i.e. Brexit. Get our country, get our sovereignty back. Now, that's changed with the Brexit Party. Realistically, the fact is that has changed. And there is this momentum behind the Brexit Party. And I have to tell you that now I'm wondering, and don't get me, I'm not saying that I trust Nigel Farage, he's another politician, yeah. I'm too long in the tooth for any of that. I'm way too jaded for any of that. But the fact is that they have the momentum behind them to destroy this duopolistic politics that we see in Westminster, this non-representative, anti-democratic sham. And why on earth would any Brexiteer, anybody that puts their country first, now support UKIP over the Brexit Party?
Well, right now at this moment, probably not going to do that tomorrow, are they? But that's where UKIP have got to regain the ground that we had before in 2015, and we can only do that by becoming a mainstream political party with a set of radical policies that resonate with the people that we want to vote for us, and that's across the board. But people are very, very quick, Ollie, to just completely and utterly write us off. We're done, we're finished, and we're down the road.
Not doing that.
But actually, if you look at, for instance, in the Bradford local elections, we stood 10 candidates and we had 6 seconds. Now, all right, we come second. You don't get a prize for coming second. I understand that. But in terms of stamping our ground again back in Bradford, because we had disappeared for a while, that's amazing. And some of those seconds were literally, were like, 50, 60 to 100 votes. And so, and that's going to, if you send that back across the country, it's there, it's achievable. But what we have to do is, as I say, come back fighting. We have to go away and rethink where we are, where we want to be, and come back with policies hopefully that will resonate to the public. The thing about the Brexit Party, and I'm not going to spend an hour talking to you, dissing the Brexit Party and dissing anybody in particular at all, because I'm not going to. That's not the way I do things. But
good.
The Brexit Party,
because this is the thing. We need unity, don't we?
Last night.
We need unity. Sorry, we need unity, don't we? How can? Yeah. Is there any way that the Brexit Party and UKIP could possibly work together? Or should maybe UKIP stand aside and say, I'm playing devil's advocate here, sir, yeah? Should maybe UKIP stand aside and say, you know what, they've got the momentum, this is for the good of the country, let's get behind it?
Well, no, because, as of tomorrow, no, because we've fought the elections. I mean, this is a very, very personal view, Ollie. These elections are the big. I can't believe we're doing it. We voted to leave, and here we are. We've got people chasing around the country. It's costing millions and millions of pounds, and we've got 16,000 ex-servicemen either in prison or on the street sleeping rough, and we're spending hundreds of millions of pounds. We could have. How many houses could we have bought, or hostels could we have bought with that money, to get them and other people, obviously homeless people, off the streets? I just find it incredible. And then if they get elected tomorrow, Bill was right, I think. They're probably going to get something in the region of 38 to 41%, I would have thought, of the vote. But they may only be there for 5 weeks. They may only be there for 2 or 3 months. I can't see them being there for 5 years.
But they are going to contest
Ollie, can I ask a question?
Go on,
and you've
Robin,
got people like Martin Daubney, who I absolutely respect and admire for his work on men and boys. Tremendous advocate for men's rights and things like that. Great guy. He's given up all his paid salaried job to go and fight for this for maybe 5 weeks. Great that he's done it. All power to his elbow, but I think it could be a little bit short-lived, if I'm honest. I think it's thoroughly shameful that we're even bothering with these elections tomorrow, and it'd be interesting to see what the turnout is. I think Nigel has very much whipped the country up into a fever of actually going to vote. But whereas under normal circumstances, the MEP elections don't attract, I don't believe, that greater turnout. So it will be interesting tomorrow. But I find it incredible that we're even doing this.
There's a lot of people. Robin, I'm going to bring you in just a sec, Robin. But just on that very point that you just mentioned, Stephen, there's a lot of people that are saying we should not be voting. That by participating in this vote, we are condoning the EU, and in fact, we're even accepting EU citizenship. They say. Now, I personally disagree with that, but nonetheless, a lot of people are saying that. Certainly in this community. What would you say to them?
Well, I agree with them. My personal view is I agree with them. I personally wish UKIP would have said right from the word go, we ain't taking part in these elections. We're going to save our money, and for the next May round of local elections and potentially, possibly a general election, and keep our powder dry for then. And I personally wouldn't have stood in these elections. I think that's why the Tories know they're going to get battered tomorrow. That's why they've just not literally bothered with it. I feel sorry for their candidates.
Robin, go on. What's your take on that? And what else did you want to ask? But what is your take on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm Stephen. I'm sorry. I think you thought I'd gone earlier, but I was still listening very closely to what you were saying.
No. I know you're there, Robin.
Thanks for your comments. I've spent a lot of time. I've been a member of the Conservative Party on and off for 15 years, but I don't put party loyalty before Brexit. Brexit is the most important thing to me. My concern going forward, and I just wonder what your thoughts are on this. My concern going forward is this: that Theresa May will be gone very shortly.
Yeah, I think they're talking Friday now. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, the party will choose another leader, therefore, and the fact that she hasn't gone tonight, I think is partly a reflection of the fact that from the Brexiteers' point of view in the parliamentary party, actually it was better to let her hang on for grim death beyond tomorrow's vote, because if she'd have resigned tonight, it would have potentially brought some people back into the Conservative fold.
Yes, I think that.
You know what I mean? At the death, people would have gone, "Oh, there's hope for the Conservative Party. Oh well, I won't go and vote for the Brexit Party or UKIP tomorrow. I'll stick with the Conservatives because we're going to get a Brexit leader." So, perversely for the Brexit people in the parliamentary party, why would you force her to leave now when actually you want the demonstration of will of the British people towards Brexit to be as high as possible, by as high as possible vote for the Brexit Party, in order that then you can deliver a Brexit candidate into the Conservative Party. And my biggest concern is that happens, is that we get somebody in as the leader of the Conservative Party who establishes themselves as a strong Brexit candidate. And like Bill, I just don't believe there's anyone we can truly trust. No. But other people will, and the outcome of that will be we'll have a three-way split of the Brexit vote. We'll have the Brexit Party, we'll have UKIP, and we'll have the Conservatives.
Yeah,
we won't get it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
But at the moment, sadly, the two leaders that need to cross the floor, shake hands, and sit and have a pint together are not talking, and that's Gerard and Nigel. They're just not talking. So, unfortunately, I can't see that happening.
They need their heads banging together.
Also, I just make this point: UKIP, members of UKIP, are still smarting very much from 2017, where we allegedly lent our vote to Brexiteer Tories and ended up getting caned. And so any deals that would be done, I don't know. It's a bit of a strange one, that. It depends on what happens next week as well, obviously, with Gerard Batten, whether he stands down, whether he stands again for leadership. He's already said that his position is untenable if he doesn't get elected tomorrow.
Has he? He said that.
We're going through them ramifications again, I'm afraid, which I don't know. We just can't seem to get any damn consistency.
What would Nigel's offer to UKIP have to be for you personally to advocate a merger between the two parties?
Well, I don't think Nigel would even entertain it. I mean, I'm a bit disappointed. I admire Nigel, but he's already called us all tattooed thugs. Well, I'm not a thug and I haven't got any tattoos.
Yeah.
And and he called us vile the other day. Well, there are certain things that have gone on that I don't agree with, and I don't want to get into that because I'm not going to diss my party on the night before a major election. But I just think that I can't see a way forward, if I'm honest with you, unless the new leader and Nigel go and have a pint somewhere and sit down and have a chat and maybe come to some arrangement. I don't know, but the thing as well, of course, is you've got people within UKIP that have been in UKIP for years and worked their way up. They're dedicated to their wards, they're dedicated to their constituencies, they're dedicated to their branches and their regions, And loyalty, speaks for an awful lot. And to disappear amongst and pay £25 to become one of 100,000 with no say, no voice, no decision-making capabilities, I can't see Kippers wanting to do that, if I'm honest.
No, I can completely understand that from a Conservative Party perspective. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The thing is that UKIP haven't
from the perspective of just common empathy
activists down in the way that the Conservative Party has. The way that Conservative activists feel is that it's not just the Prime Minister, the leader of the day, that's let them down. They feel the party, by not getting rid of her, repeatedly not getting rid of her for so long, has let them down, and their entire belief system has broken down.
Yes, of course.
I mean, I can't tell you how many calls from people in Conservative politics that I've hooked up with, got to know over the years, who have phoned me over the last couple of months, just saying, what on earth? Well, sorry, in the last 6 months, saying, what on earth are we doing? It's like sort of having to go back 20 years, 30, 40, 50 years in some cases, and then to go, did I make the wrong decision? I made the wrong decision, didn't I? I was completely wrong betting my farm on this particular thing.
I just realised I've got the wrong. Hold on a second. Let me quit it. Sorry, carry on, folks. This is not Bill. Yeah, this is Stephen Place, and I've got the wrong lower third thing on. So I'll change that. Sorry, Stephen. I'm attributing you to the Brexit Party at that moment, which is not on.
Stephen, it's kind of interesting, isn't it? I mean, UKIP have got the infrastructure that the Brexit Party don't have.
Yes.
The organisational infrastructure that takes years to establish.
Yes.
Because it really requires, when you're talking about a voluntary structure, it requires, there are across the country millions of social occasions in pubs, as Bill Etheridge said earlier. He said the way that he thinks campaigning should be done is you go out on the streets and then you go for a couple of pints afterwards. And campaigning without a couple of pints afterwards doesn't work, does it? People don't turn up the next time. There's very much a social element to it.
Yes.
And building that voluntary network, what you're doing is you're saying to people, please spend some of your time supporting this party, and in return you'll build a social network of people who broadly think kind of like you do, or a politically challenging people like you are, so they enjoy debate, and you build your social network around it. And that's what UKIP and the Conservatives and all the political parties have done over years and years.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I mean, we have, as I said, we've got 54 constituencies in Yorkshire and North Lincolnshire, and we've currently got 27 active branches, but they cover two or three constituencies, or four, it's in my case 5 constituencies in Bradford with one branch. So we're very active, and we're out there, and we meet monthly, and then we have socials as well, and on top of that, and of course we meet to go out and do the campaigning, the stalls in town centres and all that kind of thing. And that's taken, without a doubt, 20 odd years, whatever, to get that established and get that network moving. We've slipped a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you. We've slipped a little bit in UKIP because we went sort of last year. We went a little bit down, and that's where Gerard stepped up to the plate, and thankfully he did. Yeah. And said the party, and we sort of largely disappeared quite a bit. But we're getting back on top again. We're doing really well. And it was interesting at the count for the local elections. In Bradford, in Keighley, where I went to for my count, and I was elected a councillor in Baildon in Bradford. And at the count, the body language of the Tories was somewhat different to previous counts. They are fed up. You're absolutely right. The activists and the door knockers and the leafleters and the people that stuff envelopes and the people you can rely on to turn up for meetings and things. Yeah, I think they're absolutely fed up. I understand a lot of them across the country have gone on strike. They're just refusing to even go out. So, yeah, the Tories are in big trouble. Sorry?
But they've done it in that very conservative way, that very understated conservative way. So for every Conservative that says that hand on heart says I'm on strike, I will not go out and do things for the Conservative Party, you can bet your life there are at least 100 who are acting the same but aren't saying it. Because in the Conservative Party, people don't say what they mean.
Yes.
They are very, very kind of circumscribed in the way in which they communicate. But no, I mean, it is every single person I've spoken to. The only person I know in my local area who is actually going out and campaigning in the EU elections for the Conservative Party is somebody who is deputy chair political for the local association and is a candidate. He's trying to get on the candidates. Well, he's on the candidates list. He's trying to get a constituency for the next general election. That's the only reason that person is out doing it. Nobody else is interested.
Yeah,
nobody else. And I'm in Surrey. I'm in Surrey, so we're this is true blue. Cut people in half. It says Conservative down the middle.
Yeah. As a regional chair for UKIP, I'm going out to 3 or 4 branch meetings every week.
Yeah,
meeting people, talking to them, getting them going, and we're injecting a new enthusiasm into the region, and we're introducing a different. Before we used to go and you'd have an agenda, and it was apologies, minutes of the last meeting, matters arising. As I'm sure the Tories and the Labour are the same, but I personally am moving right away from that. We're doing completely different types of meetings to get people enthused again and get them enjoying coming out and debating and talking and being involved in politics, and that's what's needed.
Do you bring political opponents into those discussions, Steve?
No, we don't invite people at the moment. No,
not on that far. But you're tempted, I can tell by that answer.
Yeah, we do have guest speakers. From all sorts of things, we do have guest speakers, yeah.
I mean, that's the miserable thing about party politics, isn't it? Is if you want a really good debate, as I do, then the last place you get it is at your political party kind of meeting.
Oh yes, yeah.
Because everybody's broadly of the same opinion. I want to get I want to go to a Conservative meeting and get a Labour person in to debate something and have a proper scrap.
That's right.
There's a group. There's a group based in Bradford called Politics in the Pub.
Yeah.
And they put meetings on and they invite guest speakers from different parties. They all have like 4 or 5 minutes to do their spiel, and then they answer questions. And some of them in the past, especially leading up to the referendum, were quite heated, but reasonable. And then the others, and I took part in lots of those, and it was great. From somebody involved in politics, I absolutely loved it, and we had some really, really good debates. And you had to be on your toes and you had to know your stuff. She soon got caught out and made a fool of. So they do have that in Bradford, the politics in the pub situation. It's been a bit quiet actually lately, but we need to resurrect that because it was good. It was good, and it was good debate and getting all peoples together.
Steve,
I went to the groups all over the country, Leavers of, and then you insert the town name. I was invited last night to the Leavers of Wakefield, which was their launch, and I was the guest speaker. So the Brexit party didn't turn up, but there were supposed to be 2 of us, and I was the guest speaker there. And there were UKIP members there. There was one man from the Communists. There was, a broad church of people. So those groups are being very successful at the moment.
Yeah, damn right. They should be. You said earlier, and you sounded a little bit dejected when you said it. I don't see a way forward. Necessarily, there was a caveat to that. It wasn't just that you said, but I just want to tell you that in the comments, it has to be said, you're getting a lot more support for UKIP than has been the case for BP. I think, in fairness, that says more about this show's demographic than it clearly it does, according to the polls, at least in the nation. Yeah. What have you.
Well, to be honest with you, Ollie, those. I mean, I absolutely agree with Gerard. If you forget the elections tomorrow, if you go back, let's go back to say January, February, March this year, the polls were coming out all the time, and the Liberals, Lib Dems, had largely disappeared from the political theatre. Mm-hmm. You never saw Vince Cable on TV, apart from when he actually said he was going to stand down. They were offering nothing new other than reversing and stopping Brexit, and they'd largely disappeared. And they were constantly, according to the polls, polling at between 11 and 12%, sometimes 14. And I thought, I just can't believe that. I don't believe it. And so, as everybody says, the only poll is tomorrow, and let's just see where we are at the end of tomorrow.
What happened in the locals? Because, I mean, UKIP they didn't seem to be able to field the candidates. Is it a money thing?
No. Well, if you think about last May, because the party had largely sort of not disappeared, but a lot of the branches and the regions had parked themselves. We had the debacle of Henry Bolton as our leader, who was just just a nonsense.
Yeah,
but a lot of the branches were parked. But in May, when Gerard took over, we had 500, I think, candidates across the country. This year in May, with 1,420, so we'd virtually tripled our candidates' take up.
So why were people
we're now
voting
recruiting
for
for
Lib
candidates
Dem?
for next May? So we're climbing back up again.
Why then? In that
Stephen,
case,
don't you think-
in that case, then why were people voting for the bloody Lib Dems and not UKIP?
They weren't.
It was a protest vote, wasn't it? And also, if you look
But
at,
they should have voted for UKIP.
politics. I think you'll both agree, guys. Politics largely is about perception.
Yeah, of course.
And the perception that's been fed through every television, in every living room, and on every newspaper, and on most radio channels, is that UKIP are a toxic, racist party. Yeah. And we can't battle that. There's no way we can battle that other than me in Bradford and my fellow colleagues and members going out, working, talking, doing casework, talking to people, and combating it that way, because we've got no chance.
Do you think Gerard made a big mistake in associating with Tommy Robinson?
It didn't help. That's my personal view. Yeah.
I think that's the difficulty, and also you've got Carl Benjamin as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm an ex-copper. Again, I'm not going to diss my party at all, but as far as Carl Benjamin's concerned, I would just make this point, and I've made it quite forcibly to many people. I was a police officer in Bradford. I was on the vice squad, and I dealt with rapes, and I dealt with rape victims, and I'll leave, and it's a life sentence for those girls. It's as simple as that.
Yes.
And I will leave it at that. But of course, we missed an open goal. If you needed and found the need to say something detrimental about Jess Phillips, there's plenty there. Yeah. You didn't need to say what he said, and
I agree.
I'll leave it at that.
I completely agree.
I agree. But I think the fact is that the media have just done a complete hatchet job, haven't they, on UKIP? I think Gerard was very unwise to associate in that way.
Yeah, but also, to be honest, Robin, it goes back. If you think about, can you remember Paul Nuttall when he was the leader? He was on Question Time and completely and utterly set up, and it was proven later. That members of the audience were planted, the questions were planted, and they were booing, and it all started more or less around about that time. But of course, you see, and this was under Nigel's tenure as well. Yeah. Our raison d'etre has always been Brexit.
Yeah,
we were the party of Brexit, and we still are. Largely, we allowed ourselves to go down the pathway and talking about nothing but immigration.
Yeah.
In those days, and then we've sort of sidelined ourselves onto Islam. But at the end of the day, if you read the manifesto, most people. I know people in the local Labour Party that have read our manifesto and largely agree with what we're saying. Yeah. And a lot of kippers, actually, and I'm one of them, when it comes to things like, if you look at Christmas Day this year, the last Christmas Day, 120,000, it's alleged, kiddies woke up in a hostel or a bed and breakfast or a grotty hotel, sharing toileting with other families and adults and everything. I can be quite socialist when it comes to that. I think it's a disgusting indictment on this country, and it's the same with the homeless people. And look at a massive point today, which has been largely ignored. Is the British Steel situation?
Yes.
That's purely and utterly down to the EU.
Yes.
But trying to get that out there, when the government, the business ministers come out today and say, well, it's unlawful for us to make an intervention. He hasn't said because of the EU laws.
No.
And they've just had to pay a massive whopping fine or bill, not a fine, a bill for their carbon output. Right. And do you wonder we're struggling?
Isn't it strange though, Bill? Steve, don't you think it's strange that the whole sort of idea of you go back to the kind of history of the EU, and the whole central idea was that the coal and steel community was set up in order to take the means of production of those things you would need to make war. Nations would need to make war on each other, i.e., energy and steel.
Yeah.
Would be taken out of the hands of individual nations. Now, when we're leaving, suddenly our steel industry collapses. It's ridiculous. And strategically, it's potentially quite a big problem, isn't it? And there is no way that our hands should be tied and preventing us from intervening. It's nuts, absolutely nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm tonight all across Scunthorpe and Teesside, and there's up to 25,000 people sat there biting their nails thinking, how am I going to pay my mortgage? We've just booked our holiday. I've got money on the credit card still from Christmas, and yet we're spending billions and billions and billions on a damn railway that's cutting a scar right up through the middle of the country. And we're spending billions and billions giving it away to countries that don't need it. And yet we've got these guys sat at home tonight, worrying, and they'll be in tears. There'll be genuine, serious stress and worry, and therefore illnesses and all that kind of thing. Yeah. All because we're not allowed to say, there's the money. And we had a good, this is a good one, we had a good chat the other day. A few of us went for a curry and a bit of a chat, and we were on about the Honda factory in Swindon.
Yeah.
Shutting down. And I said, come on, let's come up with some ideas. And my idea was this, that we send some very clever people into that factory, because we've got them in this country. And we buy steel from Port Talbot or from Scunny or wherever you get the steel from. And we make trains there. And we make it part of the license agreement from the railway network people, that they buy new trains off us and replace the horrible crap rolling stock that we're all sitting in, that we can never get a seat on. And that would create an industry there. And then somebody else came up with an even better idea, as far as I'm concerned. Why don't we send some very clever people in there, because we've got them, buy steel from Port Talbot, wherever, and make the first all British electric car?
Yeah.
Why don't we do that? Well, we can't do that at the moment because of the EU. But when we're out of the EU, why can't we do that and save all those jobs, stop the anxiety, stop the worry, stop the stress? And that's just three guys sat having a curry in Bradford one night coming up with those ideas. And there's better, cleverer people than me about. Why don't we're just short-sighted?
Totally. Yeah, we're not short-sighted. We are trapped, aren't we, Steve?
Well, we're trapped. Yes, absolutely. You're right. We're bloody trapped.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that so once out, and the vista expands before us.
Yeah.
We'll have an opportunity to be able to really apply ourselves to this problem. We're not even trying at the moment because we can't. We're trapped.
Yeah.
Stephen was on the show.
Sooner we're out.
Stephen was on the show in March, the beginning of March, a show called Cop Out, talking about the part of state of UK policing. And Stephen, I hadn't put two and two together until just a minute ago, to be honest with you, mate. That was a wicked show. It was a superb show, and it is great to have your input. Thank you very, very much indeed. I just wanted to say, if anybody wants to call in and ask any questions to Stephen, please do. I've put the number in the comments. It's also in the spiel. And we can have a chat and what have you.
Ollie, I'm going to have to duck out, I'm afraid now.
Robin, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Robin.
Stephen, it was a real pleasure to speak to you.
Yeah, nice to talk to you, Robin. Thanks very much. All the best to you.
Good stuff. All the best to you. And I hope the conflict between those three parties and Brexit can be resolved, because we need to work together, don't we? We need to get them.
I think I'm sure there's got to be a way forward. I'm sure there will be.
We've got to find it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, chaps. Good night.
God bless you, Robin. God bless you, Mr. H. Thank you, Stephen. One of the major questions that I had for Bill was: is politics being privatised with the Brexit Party? What would you say to that?
Being privatised?
Well, effectively, yeah. Because I mean, it's it's not actually a party at the moment. It's a company with a slightly unusual funding model. Now, if
you look close at the candidate list, it's awash with multi-millionaires.
In fairness, it's also a teething party. And so Bill did say, and I would refer people to his answer, please, rather than just hear my question, in fairness to Brexit Party. And he did say that there will be changes off the back of this election and what have you. But nonetheless, well, please, now tell me what your thoughts are about that.
Well, I don't believe for a minute all this nonsense about the accounting and all that sort of thing. They have to declare anything over 499 quid. So all the £25 that have been paid in, they don't have to declare those. It has to be a company limited by guarantee. And obviously Nigel will be, I presume, I might be wrong here, but presume the sole director. But you've got Richard Tice there and John Longworth, very, very wealthy businessmen. Mm-hmm. They're quite they're quite in the forefront of what's going on with it. But are they really politicians?
Do we need politicians? I mean, to have people like you,
businessmen or politicians, I don't know.
But is that not a bad thing? Are we not fed up of career?
Well, absolutely, because things have got to change, haven't they? You've got the traditional Tory party, sponsored and supported by large donations from very, very wealthy people who sometimes always end up with a surprise, a knighthood or an earldom or sitting in the House of Lords. And then you've got the Labour Party, largely sponsored by unions, although they're on a big switch now, aren't they, to large donations from people and from companies. Politics in this country needs to change. And I'll tell you something, that cesspit of Westminster, that has got to change.
Yes, absolutely.
We need to seriously look at Parliament and how it's run, and its systems and its governance and everything else. For me, if you are a sitting MP and you're representing, 30, 40, 50,000 people or whatever the number is, and whilst you're in that job, you are convicted of a criminal offence. For me, it should be an automatic. You stood down. And then we don't have the nonsense of an MP turning up in Parliament wearing an electronic tag from her release from prison. What we're playing at. Our moral compass has gone wrong.
Absolutely. It has to be said that you are not.
Sorry, Ollie, but Ollie.
No.
I don't think it's been privatised, but certainly there's money involved. Putting on those rallies where everybody gets a Corex card, the big cards with Brexit Party on and a T-shirt, that costs some money. To do that, and that money's come from somewhere, and it'll be up to them to make sure that the legalities, and I'm sure they are. I don't suspect for a minute that there's anything irregular. I really don't. It'd be interesting to know who the big donors are, but only from I'm nosy point of view.
Yes, no, sure. And I think one of the main ones, did come out, didn't he? Because he was a former Tory donor and he's moved across.
Yeah. There was this, the one that I'm interested in, if I'm honest, is the 100 grand that Nigel wouldn't say who had put that money in a few weeks ago. He was challenged quite a lot, especially on Newsnight, and he wouldn't admit it. He wouldn't say where it come from. So it'd be interesting when that comes out in the wash. There's a lot about it's alleged that it's Steve Bannon, and I think that won't go down very well if it is Steve Bannon.
Well, I mean, in a way, I hear what you say. But when you look at the kind of funding that they get on the Remainer side from the likes of George Soros, for crying out loud, a foreign oligarch. I mean, I just find it incredible that is legally allowed in the UK at all. I just find it absolutely incredible that that's allowed. When you look at that sort of thing, I mean, the Brexit side needs all the help it can get. I mean, if it is Stephen Bannon, you could argue, well,
I'm not saying I don't care. To be honest with you, I don't care where the money comes from. If I'm honest with you, it's little interest to me. It's what they do with it and how they change the country, and how politics. It all goes into the soup and stew of changing politics. I'm 58 years old, and all I've ever known all my life is a bloody Tory or a bloody Labour Party. And look at the state of the country.
Yes.
And it needs to change. It's long overdue. And if it's Nigel that's taken the lead for now, fantastic. But please don't write UKIP off, because UKIP, our UKIP is full of very good, sound, honest, decent, hard-working people. With a breadth of experiences and expertise that we will be calling on, and we'll be spreading the net further and wide for that expertise and experience to develop policy, and we will always be there working in the background, and we will always be there for the people.
Okay, let's take a few comments and see what folks have got to say. And if anybody does want to call in, then you're very, very welcome. Thank you. Thomas White says, all the cuts we have had in all our services have been planned with the vote to remain in the EU so they can make the NHS private and to implement PESCO, military unification in Europe, which is not just our armed forces, it's our police force as well. And no one is mentioning our police going over to PESCO. And that's because they need our police to do their duty. As an aside, Stephen, as an ex-copper, what would you say to that?
I think there's some truth in it, and it's a very, very worrying trend, isn't it? And that's why we've got to halt it and stop it, and go back to looking after our own police force. And I mean, the police force in this country is, and I'm not being melodramatic, the police force in this country that I'm on about, the rank and file, bobbies that you see in cars and on the beat now and again, dealing with all the rubbish that they have to deal with. It's on the verge of collapse, mate. There's high percentages that are carrying PTSD and work-related stress. There's very high percentages of police officers at the moment that are carrying work-related injury. And I think we've had 7 so far this year have taken their own lives serving police officers. Absolute mess, an absolute mess. And unless they act very, very quickly, which the Tories don't seem to want to do, and God forbid Diane Abbott ever gets her hands on them, God forbid that. But we're committed to the police force, and whoever's listening to this, please tell the police force, that UKIP are the party of law and order. We've got some very good policies on law and order, and we will support the police force, and we're right behind them, 110%.
Lauren Kane says, getting Tory Brexiteer as PM unlikely. Will have the same mess. Common purpose civil servants who have an agenda. Brexit will still be kicked down the road to 2020 when Lisbon Treaty kicks in. That is a very concerning thought.
Well, do you know what surprises me, Ollie, about the Lisbon Treaty is that nobody from the Brexiteer side of it is talking about it.
That's right.
Nobody's exploring the actual ramifications of the Lisbon Treaty coming into full force. And I'm absolutely surprised that nobody's talking about it and what the ramifications are. Well, let's see what happens, But I don't know. It's obviously things are changing now, but the sooner we get out of that damned EU and get away from it, when you think as well, today, somebody somewhere today has pressed the enter button and sent a backs payment of £55 million to the EU. And they did it yesterday and the day before, and they'll be doing it tomorrow and the day after.
I'm sorry? What's that?
Well, we pay 55 million quid a day, don't we?
Oh, you're talking about us. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah.
So somebody today in Whitehall or wherever has pressed the backs button and sent 55 million quid to Brussels today. And, I'm simplifying it. I know I am. But you get my point.
Yes.
And they'll be doing it tomorrow and the day after. And they did it yesterday and the day before that.
Yes.
But what could right now, if you just said to me, right, Steve, there's 55 million quid there. My God, we'd have bought MRI scanners. You could have sorted out the roads. We'd have employed a load of more coppers. We'd have had a load of more nurses in training.
Yes.
There you go.
I apologise. I did have a mobile number on the screen. It wasn't Robbins. It was one of our callers. But I do apologise for putting that on there. Pearl Openings UK says, I've just cancelled my membership with UKIP because of their snobbery and not looking for the truth. That sounds like a direct challenge, Stephen.
Was that cancelled with UKIP?
I've just cancelled my membership with UKIP because of their snobbery and not looking for the truth.
Oh, wow.
I'm very surprised to read that comment relating to
Yes,
UKIP,
I am.
actually.
Yeah, that's a new one to me because there's nothing snobby about the UKIP anywhere at all. I know hundreds and hundreds and UKIPers, and there's no snobs, and we don't have a better than thou attitude, and at all. And when she says looking for the truth, it'd be interesting to see what she means. Hopefully she'll come back on and say.
Paul Perrin says modern plod are disgusting. They escorted the Muslim Defence League, total thugs, miles to attack a family gathering at the Tommy Robinson rally in Oldham. I think it was on Saturday, and stood by while a few threw stones and even scissors into the crowd, where Paul says, at the kids, and I'm sure that there were kids in that crowd, and they were throwing bricks. I saw the video and put up a post about it. They defended themselves, the Muslim Defence League, and said that it was started by Tommy Robinson lot, who were throwing eggs at them or something, or eggs and bacon or something. But they also had on their Facebook page, the Muslim Defence League, an advert for people to turn up to confront the Tommy Robinson lot.
I have watched the videos that are available, and it was quite clear that prior to that, they were arming themselves with eggs and bricks before they walked down the road. The police were walking with them. They should have stopped them. There's no doubt about it. I don't think there were enough. I'm not making excuses because you can't defend the indefensible.
Who were arming themselves?
There weren't enough police there to stop them, but there should have been. And that's the simple answer. And the statement put out by Greater Manchester Police, to defend their actions, was pitiful.
Did you think it was a kind of tit for tat? Was it 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, or was one side somehow worse than the other?
From what I understand, and I don't have anything to do with him, but from what I understand, Mr. Robinson had his own rally at the bottom of a cul-de-sac area with a large grass area there, and people were there quite right, as they're entitled to do, listening to what he was saying when this lot turned up. It's as simple as that. And they walked down a long road. I don't think it was miles, but they walked down a long road with police either side of them. And I can only surmise that there weren't enough police to actually physically stop them. And I think that's where it's all gone wrong. But there should have been. You've got to have forward planning, and it should have been. But that, to me, if you're gonna start labelling people as far right and fascist and everything else, well, where do the Muslim Defence League sit? Who are they? What are they? What's their intentions? That's what you've got to find out, and you've got to stop them doing that again.
Yes. William Davis says, police do the EU dirty work worldwide. All we have are here where... I can't read that, William. Please look after your grammar, folks, because otherwise I can't read it properly. Carol Wester says, Batten needs to stay on as leader. It's essential for the life of UKIP. What is your take on that, Stephen?
I'd rather not comment, if you don't mind. Only because it's an election tomorrow.
Yeah, fair play. So next week you'll be coming back on the show and giving us an exclusive?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Okay, I'll tell you what, I would love to do a show with you which is less party political. That would be great. Paul Perrin says, seems some UKIP top brass hold grudges. I was very, very rude about them when Paul Nuttall stood down candidates in 2017. Now they won't let me join. Stephen Palfrey says, dear God, look past this election farce and realise you are being conned into voting. And Stephen, you kind of agree with that, don't you? You said, I think we've covered that. Peter isn't here, says, agree, Paul, I did not like Nuttall or the one who followed him, who had the blonde bimbo. Carol Weston also says Batten needs to stay on as leader. Okay, Suzanne Gamble says the internet is messing with any videos to do with Tommy's tour. I did invite Tommy onto the show this week, by the way, as an independent candidate, and to find out what he thinks of the political scene and party political scene, and what he thinks about milkshakes and bricks and media coverage and what have you. Whatever people think about his views, is it not the case that he's just a guy that's got views which are not somehow fascist, it seems to me. They are pretty stringent, but they do not call for violence that I have actually heard of. Please correct me if you disagree, Stephen, but that he is being treated as a kind of political, what's it called, a punch bag. And indeed, arguably, as a political is in effect a political prisoner, or has been.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when he stood on the court steps in Leeds, and he was arrested, and within 5 hours put in front of a judge and sentenced within 5 hours. I mean, that was political. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind about that. He was persecuted for political reasons. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind about that. And they're going to they're charging him again. He's going to stand up in court, go to court again. That's the establishment and the elite, and they're shutting him down. And when it's interesting that Nick Clegg got that job in working for Facebook.
Yeah,
it's only £7 million. Big lovely luxury mansion now in Silicon Valley, and suddenly everybody's getting deplatformed, and you've got to be careful what you say and what you do. Well, that's their fault, because people will look for other avenues, and therefore Facebook will lose out. Now we use Facebook a lot. We have individual ward pages, if you like. So on Facebook, you can go onto the Baildon ward in Bradford, and that's my Facebook page, and I update things and tell the people what's going on and what have you. And it works really well. And this local election, I budgeted something about between 80 and 100 quid to boost the posts. So you boost them out to more and more people, and they wouldn't take my money. They wouldn't let me do it without signing this registration certificate, which I couldn't find. And I don't know anybody that's actually found it to be able to put out a political message. So they've lost 100 quid off me, and there were 10 of us, so they've lost £1,000 there. And then if you extrapolate that across the country, they're losing a lot of money. I think they're cutting their noses to spite their faces.
You personally are doing a lot to help the victims of grooming gangs, no? Yeah.
You see, what for quite some time now, quietly behind the scenes, this is where I'm at odds with Mr. Robinson and his methodology. You don't need to stand on a street corner shouting through a megaphone or a microphone. People know it's going on. People are aware of it. What we have to do is find out who's responsible. Not just that. I'm not just talking about the actual perpetrators of the rapes and the trafficking and the buggery and the torture. I'm talking about people that knew about it, and people that have understood it, and people that have turned a blind eye to it. They're the people we should be after. Yes. And so quietly in the background, myself and one of my fellow Kippers from Bradford, Derek Hodgson, and Alan Craig, who's our UKIP spokesman for families and children, and the UKIPers in Rotherham, UKIPers in Rochdale. We've been working quietly behind the scenes, gathering lots and lots of empirical evidence. We've called in 2014, 15, 16, 2014, 15, 17, and then just last 2 weeks ago, UKIP have called on Bradford Council to invoke and have an independent inquiry into Bradford and Keighley grooming gangs, because they're prevalent, they're still going now. And each time we've been fobbed off with a load of nonsense. And it's a Labour-run council. They don't want to know, they're not interested. And so that work's been going on for quite some time, So Gerard, to be truthful, didn't need to appoint Tommy Robinson as a specialist, as it were, on grooming gangs. He'd already got plenty of them within the party. But what's interesting, there's a big sea change gone on in the last few weeks, because in a banqueting suite just outside Bradford, an Asian banqueting suite, there was a conference about 9 weeks ago. It's called Together Against Grooming, and it was run by the Muslim community, and it was run by the Manningham Housing Association, which is a Muslim housing association. They had lots of speakers. There was about 480 people there. And that marked a massive sea change for me, because not only are the Muslim community admitting and recognising the cancer within their society, they're now starting to do something about it.
Wow.
And the other big sea change that came about.
That is good to hear. Sorry. Please carry on.
Sorry, I was just saying,
good to hear.
There was a Punjabi girl, one of the speakers. I mean, you could hear a pin drop when she spoke. And she talked very openly and very honestly about she was abused from being 7 until 16 by her uncles within the actual family unit. I've never, ever heard that ever anywhere publicly claimed or announced or admitted. And I was sat with a group of women who were all midwives, and they were on the conference. And next to me was a Muslim girl. She was lovely, and she was in tears when this story was coming out. And I said, "Are you all right?" She said, "Yeah, I'm fine." And I said, "Are you crying because of the girl's story?" She said, "No, I'm crying because at last we're admitting it." And I said, "Is it quite prevalent?" She said, "Yeah." And I was like, "Wow, that was something."
Yes, sir. Very powerful.
We're slowly but surely getting there, but the police have got to change their attitude. I mean, they're safeguarding now. They're doing all right. They're doing better, let's put it that way. But they've just had to take extra police officers and extra police staff on in Huddersfield to cope with the amount of cases that are coming through.
Stephen,
so
I
non-stop.
I got to wrap this for reasons of balance, but I want to say it's really, really lovely talking to you. I personally I wish, as Robin said, I wish to goodness that the Brexit Party and UKIP could unite for the good of the country, and with the experiences that you have to join forces. And I tell you, from the point of view of being a patriot, it kind of breaks my heart that you can't.
Well, you never know. I mean, I don't think the door's firmly shut. I really don't. You just never know. I think it depends on what happens in the very near future with our leadership election, and whoever is the leader. It's the direction that they take the party in. I just hope, if it's not Gerard, and we elect a new leader, I hope that new leader doesn't have a personal agenda. I hope they're open to a good raft of good solid policies that resonate with ordinary working people. And I think we could steal a march on Labour, because I think Labour have abandoned all the northern towns that they used to stand in. They've absolutely abandoned them and left them behind.
Stephen Place, thank you very much indeed, sir. Good evening. God bless you.
Vote UKIP tomorrow. Thank you.
Nighty night, Stephen. Thank you.
Cheers, bud. Bye. All the best. Bye-bye now.
Cheerio.
Bye.
Oh, well, okay. I didn't want to wrap that. And I didn't really want to wrap it with Bill either. I could have talked with both of them for a lot longer, but wouldn't have been fair, really, I guess. The reason I didn't have LibLabCon on the show is because they don't give a stuff about us, clearly. So they don't care about democracy, so I don't care about them. And if that's somehow wrong, then hey, Facebook, you can ban me, whatever, Nick Clegg. But it just seems to me. The reason I didn't have on Britain First and other folks like that is because mainly Showtime, yeah, and it was a pragmatic choice because I figured, these are the two parties that should get seats in this on the Brexiteering side, yeah, people that are patriotic of the argument. And so it seemed to me that it was UKIP and the Brexit Party that we needed to be thinking about, folks, and looking at. And there you go. All right. So that's why they didn't come on. I did invite Tommy on, but unfortunately my email bounced because I sent it to the wrong place. But I want to talk to him. I want to hear his side of things. And people that disagree with him, I would like to hear what they have to say as well. You know what? We gotta have balanced journalism. I think the biggest problem we got is not actually our politics; it's our journalism in the UK and throughout the world largely. This is the main reason that personally I like Donald Trump. I don't trust him on a lot of stuff. Yeah, I'm quite concerned about a lot of the stuff that some of the things that he's let through and what have you. But then again, he hasn't had a lot of choice, maybe. But the one thing I would say, he's had his hands tied behind his back, you could argue and all that. But the one thing I would say that's been awesome that he's done is he has exposed the media largely as you are fake. And that is an incredibly important thing, because we are, just as we are what we eat, we are what we read, what we watch. We are what we consume. And these, everything, including the show, by the way, needs a health warning, a consumption warning. Yeah, you got to make up your own mind ultimately. Can only try and bring you the facts. But that is what the news media must be doing. It must be providing as much balance as possible. And if it isn't balanced for whatever reason, and by the way, it's impossible to be balanced because we've all got an opinion, then, and it's so easy to skew things with, a running order and whatever else. Look at British Steel today, yeah. It should have been the top story by far. But instead we got this kind of Brexit distraction, as Stephen was lamenting, going to these polls tomorrow or not, as many people don't wish to do because they so disagree with it. But then do we, are we letting the momentum run dry and letting off these traitors in Westminster and so forth? We if people can't be balanced, and if they are honest that they can't be balanced, then they need to put their cards on the table and say, look, this is where I'm coming from. So hopefully I've done that so far as this debate's concerned, and hopefully I do that as much as I can so far as this show more widely is concerned. But anyway, there you go. That's it, I guess. That's it. I'll run through a few comments. I'll run through a few comments quickly. No, I won't. No, I think it's probably best to leave it right there and just say, God bless you. And personally, I say, give him a bloody nose tomorrow. Yeah, we've got him on the ropes. Kick him out of the bloody ring. That's just my opinion. Yeah. All right. And yeah, my machine is always very slow at getting this outro sorted out. This has been the Daily Brexit in this most peculiar, perverse, surreal election week. I remain Olly Connelly. Damn, I used that word remain. I guess I'm going to do a show tomorrow. I guess so. It's Thursday. Yeah. No night off tomorrow. It's going to be weird tomorrow, isn't it? It's going to be like it's going to be like the eye in the storm, like a hurricane, where you get the kind of, it all goes quiet. And it's going to be like that for a couple of days now. I guess it's going to be like that for a couple of days until we get these election results in. So, you know what? I reckon tomorrow we need a laugh, because we're not going to be talking quite so much politics, so we need a laugh. Maybe we'll have a sing-song, I don't know. Thank you for everybody that took place, particularly Bill Etheridge and Stephen Place. God bless you both for coming on and giving us your pitch. For everybody that helped to set this up as well with these guys. Amanda Thompson, thank you so much indeed. Thank you so much indeed for helping me get Stephen on the show tonight. This is I hope this is a grassroots show. God, I hope it is. If it isn't, I'm really failing. I want to thank Robin Horsley as well. Robin, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for coming up with all sorts of great points that I didn't think of. Mr. H. And everybody that commented, thank you, and that called in as well. And Pete in Valencia, give us a shout, mate, because you're just round the corner from me. It'd be lovely to meet up. In fact, you know what? Maybe you can come on the show tomorrow and we can talk about what a pitiful lot the MPs, they're all morons here in Valencia, all of them. Not a single person that is Eurosceptic. It makes me want to puke. So yeah, I'll see you tomorrow, folks. If you can support the show, please do. If you happen to be a desk producer and you just want to kind of, I don't know, be my neighbour and live here or something, and be my desk producer, to make sure I stop putting telephone numbers on the screen, for crying out loud. Aye. Look, if you can, paypal.me/Brexit if you can. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Here's to us and Oh, for crying out loud, resign, woman. This is it. Okay, ciao. Nighty night.